If you loved me, you would. Stay a little longer, even though you're exhausted. Lend the money, even though you can't afford it. Cancel your plans, because they need you more. Accept the disrespect, because confronting it might start a fight. And in the moment, you feel it. That tight pressure in your chest. Confusion, guilt, self-doubt. You start wondering, am I being selfish? Am I overreacting? But here's the truth. That's not love being tested. That's influence through guilt. In this video, you're going to learn the psychology behind emotional blackmail, why it works, why smart people fall for it, and how to respond calmly, ethically, and confidently without turning into the villain. This is educational content, not therapy or legal advice, but it may change how you see pressure forever. Emotional blackmail is when someone uses fear, obligation, or guilt to control your behavior. It rarely looks dramatic. It usually sounds subtle. If you cared, you'd help. After everything I've done for you, I guess I just matter less. And suddenly, you're not making a decision anymore. You're defending your character. One of the simplest ways to understand this is through what psychologists often call the fog model. Fear. Fear of losing the relationship. Fear of conflict. Fear of being seen as selfish. Obligation. A sense that you owe them because of history, loyalty, or past favors. Guilt. The uncomfortable feeling that you're a bad person if you don't comply. Fog clouds your thinking. When you're in it, your brain shifts from reasoning to relief-seeking. You're no longer asking, is this fair? You're asking, how do I make this tension stop? Now here's the part most people don't realize. Smart, capable, emotionally intelligent people are often more vulnerable to emotional blackmail, not less. Why? Because you likely have high empathy. You genuinely care how others feel. A strong desire to be fair. You don't want to hurt anyone unnecessarily. A tendency to avoid conflict. You value harmony and connection. Those are strengths. But when they're unguarded, they become leverage. You start over-accommodating, over-explaining, over-sacrificing, and then you quietly resent it later. This is not weakness. It's empathy without boundaries. It's kindness without clarity. So, here's what we're going to do in this influence blueprint. First, you'll understand the psychology behind emotional blackmail, the real influence principles being used. Second, you'll learn to recognize the patterns early before guilt takes over. Third, you'll replace automatic guilt reactions with calm, confident responses that protect both your integrity and the relationship. If you want more people to actually listen when you speak, hit like, so this video reaches others who need these skills too. When someone says, if you loved me, you would, they're not just expressing emotion. They're activating powerful persuasion principles, the same ones studied by researchers like Robert Cialdini, but using them unethically. Let's break down what's happening beneath the surface. 1. Commitment and consistency. The commitment and consistency principle says that people want to act in ways that align with their identity and past behavior. In simple terms, you want to be consistent with who you believe you are. So when someone says, you're such a caring person, and then follows it with a demand, the pressure isn't about the request. It's about your identity. You're loyal. You're generous. You're different from everyone else. Now the unspoken message becomes, prove it. This is identity-based pressure. If you say no, you're not just declining a request. You're risking being seen as inconsistent with your values. 2. Reciprocity. Reciprocity is the rule that says when someone gives to us, we feel obligated to give back. After all I've done for you, I was there when you needed me. Reciprocity is powerful because it keeps relationships cooperative. But in emotional blackmail, past generosity becomes leverage. The message shifts from appreciation to accounting. 3. Loss aversion. Loss aversion means we fear losing something more than we value gaining something new. So when someone implies withdrawal, maybe I just shouldn't rely on you anymore. I guess I know where I stand. Your brain lights up with threat detection. You're no longer choosing freely. You're trying to prevent loss. Here's the key insight. Emotional blackmail works because it uses real influence psychology, commitment, reciprocity, and loss aversion, but strips away mutual respect. They frame compliance as proof of love, but love isn't proven through pressure, and the solution isn't aggression. It's not attacking them back. It's not labeling them manipulative. It's strategic clarity. Comment boundaries. If you believe persuasion should always stay ethical, when you feel emotionally cornered, your instinct is to push back. Stop being manipulative. You're toxic. This is ridiculous. It feels strong. It feels justified. And it almost always makes things worse. Why? Because emotional blackmail thrives on emotional escalation. When you attack, they defend. When they defend, they intensify. The conversation shifts from the original request to a power struggle about character. This is where the negotiation work of Chris Voss becomes useful. He teaches something called tactical empathy. Tactical empathy is the skill of identifying and labeling someone else's emotions to reduce defensiveness. It doesn't mean agreeing. It doesn't mean surrendering. It means showing you understand their feelings without accepting their pressure. Instead of fighting fire with fire, you lower the temperature. Here are 3 tools you can use immediately. 1. Mirroring. Mirroring is repeating the last 1 to 3 key words someone said, calmly. Them. If you cared about me, you cared about you? It invites them to expand and often softens their tone. 2. Labeling. Labeling means naming the emotion you hear. Instead of, stop being manipulative, say, it sounds like you're feeling really disappointed. It seems like this means a lot to you. When people feel understood, their defensiveness drops. 3. Calibrated questions. Calibrated questions start with how or what, and shift responsibility back to problem solving. Instead of, you're being unfair, try, how would you like me to handle this if I'm not comfortable agreeing? What feels most important to you here? Notice the difference. You're not escalating. You're redirecting. Here's a mini example. Them. If you loved me, you'd cancel your plans. You. It sounds like you're feeling hurt. Them. I just thought I mattered. You. You do matter. How can we handle this without me canceling everything? Calm, clear, firm. Emotional blackmail rarely starts with shouting. It starts with subtle scripts that trigger guilt before you even realize what's happening. You've probably heard versions of these. I guess I just don't matter. Fine, I'll just do it myself. Forget it. Or the silent treatment, where the conversation stops and the distance becomes the message. Notice what these have in common. They're not direct requests. They're emotional triggers. Instead of asking clearly, the person creates discomfort, and your brain rushes to relieve that discomfort. One reason this pattern becomes so powerful is something psychologists call intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement means rewards and punishments happen unpredictably. Sometimes they're warm and appreciative. Other times, they withdraw or guilt you. That unpredictability strengthens the attachment. You start working harder to get it right. Over time, a cycle forms. A request is made. You hesitate or decline. Guilt or emotional pressure increases. You comply to restore harmony. Temporary relief. The pattern repeats. That relief at step 4 is what reinforces the cycle. So how do you interrupt it? You develop pattern recognition. When you feel pressure, ask yourself 3 questions. What was actually requested? What emotion just got triggered in me? What fear is underneath that emotion? Fear of rejection? Fear of conflict? Fear of being seen as selfish? Here's the critical internal shift. Instead of reacting immediately, pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Love or fear? Love feels chosen. Fear feels urgent. When you can name the fear, you regain control of your response. This is the turning point. Because once you see the pattern, you stop negotiating from guilt, and you start preparing to respond from clarity. And that's where boundary language comes in. Now we move from awareness to language, because insight without words doesn't change conversations. When responding to emotional pressure, use a simple three-part structure. Validate the emotion. State your boundary clearly. Offer an alternative, if appropriate. That's it. No over-explaining. No defending your character. No emotional counterattack. Let's make this practical. Instead of saying, "You're being unfair," try, "It sounds like this is really important to you. I'm not able to do that, but I'm open to discussing another option." Notice what's happening. You acknowledge their emotion. You state your limit. You keep the door open to collaboration. Here's another one. "I care about you, and I'm not comfortable agreeing to that." Short, calm, final. You're separating love from compliance. Friend example. Friend: "Wow. I guess I just don't matter enough for you to show up." Instead of, "That's not true. Stop being dramatic." Try, "It sounds like you're feeling hurt. I'm not canceling my plans tonight, but I'd be happy to schedule something soon." You're not dismissing their feeling. You're not surrendering your boundary. Workplace example. Manager: "If you were really committed, you'd stay late and finish this." Instead of, "That's unreasonable." Try, "I understand this is urgent. I'm at capacity right now. What would you like me to deprioritize so this gets done?" That last sentence is powerful. It turns pressure into problem solving. Remember, tone matters more than volume. Speak slowly. Stay steady. Avoid long justifications. Over-explaining signals uncertainty. Clarity signals confidence. And when you deliver boundaries calmly, something subtle happens. You begin training people how to treat you. Share this video with one friend or coworker who's smart but keeps getting talked over. Here's something important to expect. When you stop responding to guilt the way you used to, the pressure may increase. This is escalation. You might hear, "So you just don't care." Wow, I guess I know where I stand. Maybe I shouldn't count on you anymore. Sometimes it becomes dramatic. Sometimes it becomes cold withdrawal. Why does this happen? Because the old strategy stopped working. And when a strategy stops working, people often try it harder before they abandon it. This is where most people collapse. Not because they're weak, but because escalation feels like proof you're doing something wrong. You're not. You're changing the pattern. This is when you use what's often called the broken record technique. The broken record technique means calmly repeating your boundary without adding new emotional fuel. Not louder, not harsher, just consistent. For example, them: "So you don't care." You: "I care. I'm not agreeing to that." Them: "If you cared, you'd do it." You: "I care. I'm not agreeing to that." Them: "Wow." You: "I understand you're upset. I'm still not agreeing to that." Notice what's missing. No defending your character. No long explanations. No counter-accusations. Just calm repetition. You can also use what negotiators call a "that's right" summary, a concept popularized by Chris Voss. A "that's right" summary is when you reflect their position so accurately that they respond, "That's right." For example, "It sounds like you're worried this means you're not a priority." If they say, "That's right," tension drops. They feel heard. And here's the key. Consistency builds authority. When your words don't change under pressure, people learn that your boundaries are real. This isn't about dominance. It's not about winning. It's about ethical influence, where your no is calm, clear, and steady. And over time, Steady beats dramatic. Romantic relationships are where emotional blackmail hurts the most, because love is already involved. Let's walk through a realistic scenario. Your partner says, "If you really loved me, you'd help me pay this off." Or, "If I mattered, you'd cancel your plans and stay with me tonight." Now you're not just deciding about money or time. You're defending your love. Here's how to respond, step by step. Step 1. Label the emotion. Start with tactical empathy. It sounds like you're feeling stressed about this. It seems like you're wanting reassurance. This lowers defensiveness. You're acknowledging the feeling without agreeing to the demand. Step 2. Clarify the request. Instead of reacting to the accusation, bring it back to specifics. Are you asking me to cover the full amount? Are you asking me to cancel my plans tonight? Clarity separates emotion from logistics. Step 3. Reframe the identity trap. Emotional blackmail fuses compliance with identity. "If you loved me," implies that love equals sacrifice. Gently untangle that. "I do love you. And love doesn't mean I automatically say yes to everything." You're redefining love as honest and sustainable, not performative. Step 4. Set the boundary. "I'm not able to give that amount. I'm not canceling my plans tonight. I care about you, and I'm not agreeing to that." Simple, direct, calm. Now here's something important. There's a difference between healthy vulnerability and manipulation. Healthy vulnerability sounds like, "I'm really overwhelmed. Can you help?" Manipulation sounds like, "If you loved me, you would." One invites choice. The other applies pressure. Here's a powerful test you can use internally. If I say no, does love disappear? If affection, respect, or connection suddenly vanish when you assert a boundary, that's not intimacy. That's conditional approval. Healthy love allows disagreement. And when you respond calmly, instead of defensively, you begin shifting the relationship dynamic towards something stronger. Respect, built on choice, not fear. Emotional blackmail doesn't disappear at work. It just sounds more professional. "We're a family here. If you were really committed to this team, I thought I could count on you." In the workplace, pressure often combines two forces, authority and obligation. Authority increases compliance because we're wired to respect hierarchy. Obligation increases compliance because we don't want to be seen as disloyal or uncommitted. So, when a manager says, "If you were really committed, you'd stay late," the pressure isn't just about time. It's about identity and reputation. But here's the shift. Professionalism doesn't mean automatic compliance. It means clarity, alignment, and sustainable performance. Instead of pushing back emotionally, use calibrated questions, a strategy emphasized by Chris Voss. Calibrated questions start with how or what and turn pressure into problem solving. For example, "Manager, we need this done tonight. You, help me understand the priority level compared to my current deadlines." Or, "I can take this on. What would you like me to deprioritize?" That second question is powerful. It doesn't refuse. It doesn't accuse. It forces clarity. If everything is urgent, nothing is. Here's another scenario. Coworker, "Come on, we're all staying late. Don't leave us hanging." Instead of, "I'm not staying. That's your problem. Try, I understand the team wants to finish strong. I'm not available tonight. How can we divide this efficiently during work hours tomorrow?" Notice what you're doing. You're acknowledging the group goal. You're maintaining your boundary. You're offering a collaborative path forward. This is ethical professionalism. You're not shaming. You're not submitting. You're staying steady. And when you consistently respond this way, something changes. You stop being the easiest person to pressure, and you start becoming the person people respect for clarity. At some point, this stops being about tactics. It becomes about identity. Many people who struggle with emotional blackmail aren't weak. They're kind. conscientious, cooperative. The problem isn't their character. It's the definition they're using. Somewhere along the way, kindness became compliance. But let's redefine that. Kind does not mean always saying yes. Kind means being honest and respectful at the same time. Compliance avoids discomfort. Kindness tells the truth without cruelty. If you've been vulnerable to guilt pressure, there's often an internal script running quietly in the background. If I disappoint someone, I'm bad. If someone is upset with me, I did something wrong. If I say no, I'm selfish. Those beliefs feel moral, but they're distorted. Disappointing someone doesn't make you immoral. It makes you human. So here's the identity shift. Instead of seeing yourself as someone who must keep everyone happy, begin seeing yourself as someone who is calm, fair, and consistent. Calm, you don't escalate. Fair, you consider both sides. Consistent, your boundaries don't change under pressure. Consistency is what builds credibility, and credibility builds influence. Try this small mental exercise. Think of a recent moment when you felt guilt pressure. Now rewrite your automatic response. Instead of, okay, fine, I'll do it. Try, I understand this matters to you. I'm not able to agree to that. Say it slowly in your mind. Notice the difference in posture, in tone, in self-respect. Influence isn't about controlling others. It's about becoming someone whose words carry weight. And self-respect, expressed calmly, tends to generate long-term respect from others. If this changed how you think about influence, comment, blueprint. Let's bring this together into something simple and usable. When emotional blackmail shows up, you now have a blueprint. First, recognize fog, fear, obligation, and guilt. Ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? If it's urgent, heavy, or shame-based, pause. Second, identify the influence principle being used. Is this about commitment and identity? Reciprocity, after all I've done? Loss aversion, fear of withdrawal. When you can name the tactic, it loses some of its power. Third, use tactical empathy. Label the emotion. Mirror keywords. Ask a calibrated question. It sounds like this really matters to you. What feels most important here? Fourth, state your boundary calmly. I care about you. I'm not agreeing to that. I'm not available tonight. I'm at capacity. What would you like reprioritized? And finally, repeat consistently. Not louder, not colder, just steady. Consistency is what transforms boundaries from suggestions into standards. Now here's your 7-day challenge. For the next week, notice one guilt trigger. Pause before responding. Deliver one calm, calibrated sentence instead of your automatic yes. Just one moment, one sentence, one interruption of the old pattern. Because influence is not dominance. It's not control. It's not winning. Influence is clarity, plus respect. Boundaries don't damage healthy relationships. They protect them. And ethical persuasion creates something stronger than compliance. Mutual respect. If you learned at least one technique you're going to try this week, like the video. Comment your next real-life situation, work, friends, relationships, and include the all-caps keyword boundaries so I know what you're working on. And subscribe to the Influence Blueprint and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next set of ethical persuasion tools and practical phrases.